Two, check. Two. How's it going, folks? I'm getting started quickly. I don't want to make you wait in the loading screen too much, just because I had a really good sandwich, but it was very salty, and my beverage loadout is not good right now in my fridge. So I finished my sandwich, mortadella and spicy salami, a pickle on there, some American cheese, mayo, mustard, sriracha, and some potato chips as well. Threw on some regular original Miss Vicky's on there. Really, really good sandwich. Really, really good, but I really needed like a cold, crisp beverage with it. And you know what? I like water. I like hydrating. I like a nice ice cold glass of water. But I need that bite. I need that bite. And I need some energy as well. Excuse me. So I finished my sandwich. I went downstairs. Beautiful day here in Montreal. Beautiful day. I just wore shorts outside for the first time this season. I'm wearing shorts today. I need some fizzy bubbles in my Wawa. That's right. I do. That's absolutely correct. The TRRS short shorts. I should make some branded little shorts. I think that's a good idea. If I had a pair, I would wear them. But pick this up at the dépanneur, which is, and then I can't say this enough. This is the top energy drink on the market right now. I'm sorry to say, this is the top energy drink on the market currently. So I got the stream started earlier. I didn't keep you around waiting because I really wanted to crack it open and drink some, because I was really, my body was ready for it. My body was really ready for it. I would totally buy the TRRS short shorts. I want short shorts and I want a hat as well. I know it's harder to do merch stuff because of, like, you know, who feels like helping out with that kind of thing. I would really like, though, a hat like that looks like a 80s like local news TV station kind of thing. I would like a hat, and some shorts would be good too. On the merch front, there is a brand new design, and it's absolutely sick. I'm going to remind you, I would wait for it to... I'm sure there's going to be a sale soon. So I would wait for the sale, personally. But please check out this new design, the TRRS K Bono shirt. It's so fucking cool. As soon as it goes on sale, I'm going to nab at least a couple of these myself, because it's really fucking cool. Designed by our friend Old Dutch. There should be a sale probably any day now. There's at least a couple, like a sale a month at least, usually at TeePublic. Oh. Man. You know, sometimes the energy drink thing is just kind of habitual. You know, I'm 40 years old. I'm a dad. I don't get a ton of sleep. You know, I'm tired. I'm low energy. So sometimes it's just for that reason. Like habitual, you know, just get a little energy boost before the stream or whatever. Sometimes, though, you really need it. Like, your body is really craving it. Especially when it's combined with a kind of food that's required a crisp carbonated ice cold beverage. And today is one of those days. Sometimes your body's really just like, give this to me. I need this. And today is one of those days. It's revolutionary to start each day with a blunt and a mango monster. I mean, I am a big proponent of the weed plus caffeine combo. I really enjoy that, personally. I think that's a great way to get the day started most days. I'm not sitting around smoking blunts by myself, definitely, but, like, you know, maybe that's a little excessive for me. But a nice little a nice little hit off the pen with a cup of coffee or an energy drink. Wonderful. Wonderful. Great way to start the day. Rob would have thought my rain joke was funny if he'd smoked a bun. What'd you say? Won't be satisfied with partial body fuel. He'll travel to get the total body fuel. It's true, Perfect Speller. Why settle for a pale imitation of the real thing? We don't have those fancy things in Eastern Europe. It's illegal. We're smoking dirt, Jack. I did not realize that you were in Eastern Europe. Chronic internet disease, that's cool. Well, technically, they're not legal here, honestly. Technically, these vape pens are illegal in Quebec, where I am as well, but legal elsewhere in Canada. So there's some kind of gray area. There's a kind of gray area where you can't, it's kind of legal, but kind of not. So, there are ways, dude, believe me. There are ways, dude, believe me. You don't want to know about it. I could get you a vape pen by 3 o'clock this afternoon. With vape carts. Doing the reverse Untouchables where the Mounties are bringing the vapes in. Tale as old as time. My favorite energy drink has disappeared from everywhere but 7-Eleven where I am. What's your favorite, Bon? I have a hard time finding these. Sometimes they're in the dépanneur across the street and sometimes not. I see they got a new shipment in. I gotta get Rain to send me a case of these. Like, what the hell's going on? It's been like 3 years. Why can't Rain send me a case of cherry limeade Rain? Why not? What's the reason? What's the reason why they can't do that? Why could they do it 3 years ago and they can't do it now? The what across the street? The dépanneur, Dakadoon. The dépanneur. Dakadoon, you're in, if I remember correctly, you're in Wisconsin, I believe. I don't have a list of where everyone lives, but I think some of you I might vaguely remember. Do they have, anyway, okay, I was correct, so there we go. I'm not stalking you, Dagadoon. I'm not keeping tabs on you. I think it's from talking about basketball. I don't have a list of where you all live. What? Of course I would never even dream of keeping a list of where you all live. Obviously, I would not do that. I think it was from talking about basketball. But what I'm wondering, though, let's just set that aside. What I'm wondering, though, is there a regional name for like a corner store? Whether it's Dakadoon or anywhere else. Because here in Quebec, we've got dépanneurs. In New York, you got bodegas. Sometimes it's the corner store. Like what is the lingo? What is the terminology? Where you're from? What's the regional dialect? The gas station? Convenience stores? Okay. The Quick Trip. Is it Wisconsin? I believe it's called the Cheese Store. That's right. Because that's the thing here. It's like there's not a lot of gas stations nearby. I mean, somewhat nearby, but not close enough that every time you go to the store, you're going to the gas station. In southeast Wisconsin, we used to say beer depot for any small store, but that seems to have vanished in the vernacular. It is uninspired. It's fun to have little regional variants on this. Dépanneurs are called kiosks here in Denmark, and meanwhile a bodega is a dark place with brown walls where people go to get blind drunk. Okay, that sounds fun. I like the depanneur. I like going to the dep, as we call it. And the people that own my local depanneur seem very nice people. We would mostly hit the Sev. Okay. Party stores, that's fun. That's a fun one. Fun little variation. Well, I go to the depanneur. My depanneur has a pretty good beer selection, too. They've got a bunch of really good... I'm really into sour beers. When I get a beer, it's usually a sour beer now. I had a couple of sour beers the night of WrestleMania. I had a strawberry sour beer, and I had one that's like a lime cilantro. It's a lime cilantro sour beer. Really good. It was very enjoyable. Just sipping on those watching WrestleMania. I signed a player in my stupid little spreadsheet game. I don't know how to pronounce it. Clément Letelec. Yeah, how I would pronounce that. Clément Letelec. I love those sour beers. And they're light, too. It's like 3.5%. Like, it's barely anything. Like, I can just drink 2 of those in a night. It's very chill. I don't feel like I'm going crazy, like I'm drinking beer by myself, you know? I have 2 3.5% sour beers. It's nice, you know? That's all. That's all. It's nice. I found a brewery once on the coast of Washington that made a wild fermented sour stout out of a double wide trailer on the beach, and it was amazing. It sounds very nice. Very nice. Sean's been getting his shit done. Did some stretching, gonna go for a little walk soon. We love to hear it, Sean. You're killing it. You're crushing it. Look at this guy doing stuff. You think you're better than me? You think you're better than me? Doing stuff? Or is this a call out? You're calling me out now. This is what we're doing. We're calling people out now. Wow. Okay. Okay. An apple eaten? Sorry. I was seeing if I could adjust my chair. Still jazzed from WrestleMania. I'm jazzed by it too. I really enjoyed it. I caught some of Raw last night, not live, but caught the highlights. When is does anyone have this information? When is Raw going to start airing on Netflix? I might actually start watching Raw again once it starts airing on Netflix. I missed Raw. I'll probably just download the Raw and SmackDown to watch later. I just looked at the highlights. It was weird. There was a kind of it was an interesting segment. I didn't hate it, but between Cody and The Rock, it was kind of The Rock came back with final boss, kind of humbled. It was weird. It was kind of like it was kind of an odd segment. He like asked to hold the championship title. He handed Cody something. It was like, you don't even need to open your hand to know what this is. And he said, "Don't ever break my heart again." And he was super like understated. I absolutely love this final boss Rock character. I hope he just keeps his gimmick now like forever. You know, he's just been in rare form the last couple of weeks. I've been so entertained by everything he's been doing the last couple of weeks. And it's cool because he's come back to wrestling a couple of times over the last, 10, 15 years. There was the whole Cena program that he did. And I don't want to say that he's not locked in or that he's phoning it in or anything, but it just wasn't interesting. Like nothing he was doing was really interesting. Just this kind of generic kind of motivational boots to asses, Rock character. The Rock, it's just he's in the long list of wrestlers that's just nowhere near as interesting when they're trying to be like a good guy. That's one of the problems with storytelling in wrestling, right? Is that the villains, the heels, are almost always more interesting and compelling characters, more nuanced. That's kind of the thing that they've stumbled onto with Cody here, where you actually have a babyface character that the audience is cheering. And I think that's the hardest thing from a storytelling standpoint, getting the audience to cheer for the good guy and boo the bad guy, which used to be relatively easy in wrestling, but in the modern era of wrestling, it's increasingly difficult. And that's exactly why I think it's pretty impressive what they've accomplished with Cody here and what Cody himself has accomplished. You actually have a situation where the crowd is more or less behind the face of the company now, which is the entire Cena era was not like that. It was the audience, a large portion of the audience totally rejecting that. He's always come back and sort of happy to be back gimmick. This time he hates that he's back gimmick wise, and it's so good. Yeah, not even that he hates it, but that he came back. He expected to get this main event slot. He just waltzed right into this main event slot, and he has this resentment that people rejected that. And I think in the past, we've seen in the past, they would try to push through that and be like, okay, people are rejecting this, but we're just going to keep force feeding them that until they get it.
To talk you through all this.
Gimme dat P badge, baby.
And I think that's one thing that's different about what they're doing right now is this ability to just kind of change up their strategy on a dime depending on what people are saying. And he's just so dialed in now. He's unbelievably dialed in. Cool, Jay. Thanks for the 24 months of Tier 1. Jay, thank you very, very much. Congratulations to you, Jay, on the brand new 24-month, 2-year TRRS sub badge, Jay. You deserve it. Congratulations to you. It's like your own finish the story moment. I mean, that's definitely something I've been reflecting on too, talking about what's going on in wrestling right now, Marty. Like, we've been joking around about this finishing the story thing, but like, really, it really is a pretty good story, you know? I talked a little bit about this yesterday, but like, it's really the only medium where you can tell a story like this. You know, comics, soap operas, manga, anime, you know, there's similarities, but to see someone physically struggle, like you can, in terms of Cody's story, I mean, it's been going on 7 years now? Like that's what WrestleMania was. It was the culmination of this 6 or 7 year long story of this journey this odyssey that this person has been on. You know, I would go back. I think you could trace the beginning of that story down to Cody and Goldust teaming to wrestle the Shield, which is like 10 years ago. It was like 10 years ago that match. And then they get fired, you know, and they're feuding with the Shield. And then Cody becomes Stardust as part of the Goldust tag team. He does that for 6-8 months, whatever, leaves the company. I remember when Cody left the company and he put out that he put out a tweet with like a picture of just like a list of names. I thought he was really good at Stardust, honestly. Like it speaks to how good of a performer he is, that I think as much of a silly character as that was, he really did a great job with it. But I think anyone could agree that there's a ceiling as to how far he could go with that. And I remember when he left the company, he put out that picture of like this list of names of all the people that he was going to wrestle, and it was so cool. And then you see him go to Japan and to Ring of Honor and to like start this whole new company. And kind of build himself into this main event figure that like he believed that he could be, but that people like in his company didn't think that he could be. And he went out and fucking just built it himself. You know? And then he comes back, and then there's this 2-year-long epic saga of him coming back to the company, making it to Mania, losing, making it all the way back the next year and winning. Like, that's long. That's a fucking long story. That's why it's so satisfying, and that's why I love wrestling ultimately. Even if I'm still maybe even though I don't sound like it right now, still kind of a lapsed fan. I don't even really watch that often. I watch the highlights. I pay attention to what's going on. I don't often like sit down and watch the product live. You know, but that's a long story. That's really satisfying when you see that culminate in the way that it did. I'm not a mark, Marty. I'm a serious pro wrestling journalist and analyst. I should start getting invited to the press conferences. They would never let me go there because I think I'm persona non grata in WWE because of my article that I did about Ultimate Warrior all those years ago now. Well, here's the difference, though, Marty. That's what I mean. Pro wrestling journalist is in the resume translation to I'm a mark. We all know this. I actually did, in my pro wrestling journalism career, put out an article that fucked WWE up, that they were not happy about, which is one thing that most pro wrestling journalists today are unwilling or unable to do. To my credit. And like, I don't want to take too much credit for this. You know, just little old me. But they were doing that like warrior thing, unleash your warrior and stuff. I think they stopped doing that. I don't think they do that anymore. And I believe I at least played a sizable role in ending that. I think they wanted to do that every single year and do the big Ultimate Warrior thing and have the official like award every year. And they don't do it anymore. They don't in Cancer Awareness Month, bringing out people wearing warrior masks and stuff like that. They don't do it. They gave it up because of this guy. So That's the one thing that does separate me from a lot of pro wrestling journalists out there. And honestly, it's just as someone that, like, following it for a long time and complaining about, like, Vince McMahon's fucking annoying and, like, detrimental kind of, like, obsessions, his refusal to pull the trigger on certain guys, his obsession with, like, trying to force certain people to be in certain positions where they weren't comfortable, taking away the thing that they're good at, you know, taking away their identities and putting them into something else that sucks. It is pretty cool now that he's just gone. He's completely gone forever now from the company. Just disgraced and gone forever. They can never fully pull a Chris Benoit with McMahon, but like they're coming as close as they can. And the fact now that like it seems to be just like a completely different sort of like more professional backstage kind of situation and a different kind of creative situation now. It seems like everyone's like happy to be there a little bit. It seems like a little more like open, collaborative. It seems like they really are in like a sort of totally different era right now, which is cool. You know, that's cool and exciting. I do think it's funny how sometimes in hindsight, though, it's like, remember when everyone thought Walter was getting buried by the name change? Yeah. I think there's been a lot of bad name changes, though, but that wasn't really one of them. I never liked the shortening guys' names to just one name phenomenon. That was always annoying to me. Anyway, this all started from Sean saying you're still jazzed from WrestleMania, but I am too. You know, I still, even though again I'm kind of, I keep it at arm's length. I still think it's just one of my favorite sort of storytelling mediums. I love the sport of professional wrestling, and in fact, I love that they're saying professional wrestling again. And like I think they're intentionally like moving away from the whole like sports entertainment concept. And they're saying pro wrestling again. Even Michael Cole at WrestleMania was like, damn it, I love professional wrestling. That was like, maybe I have a mark, because that absolutely did pop me. And it's a sport, you know? I always loved that in the 80s and 90s, and they say the sport of professional wrestling. You know, it is a sport. It's like it's one of the coolest sports there is. Oh yeah, I didn't see that, Marty, but I saw the highlights of it. Fuck, that's funny. That's funny. I was listening to Cornette talk about. I think sometimes Cornette and people are unfair to AEW, but like, I was listening to Cornette talk about the whole like they're going to air the footage, the Jack Perry footage, and it's like, what are you doing? It reeks of desperation. And it's just, in retrospect now, Tony had two of the biggest stars in wrestling and so much momentum. They had so much momentum. You got Cody Rhodes, you got CM Punk. You have this whole roster of guys. You were feeling like they were selling tickets. And it was hot. It was a hot promotion. It really felt for a little while like they might actually challenge WWE's like total supremacy. And just the way that's been just squandered. I mean, there's just no way around that. And it's weird. I was even thinking about guys like Andrade. And by the way, excuse me I know it's wrestling talk. It's not for everybody. I know not everyone enjoys this. I like to have a little wrestling talk on this show. It's my outlet to be able to talk about this. But even guys like Andrade that weren't really being used very well in WWE, and they leave and they go to AEW, and it's just weird that like he didn't do anything there. Like, you have these guys that are disgruntled, big names in the industry, guys that are capable of having really good matches, and you bring them over there, And you should be able to prove, like, here, if you're being misused here, I can make you look like a huge star over here. And they just didn't do it. You know? I think that's so weird. And there's a number of guys like that. Like, what's Danielson? Danielson's probably the best wrestler in the world, or was at some point. What's he even really doing over there? Is he in like a story, or like, what is he doing? I don't know, but it's crazy how much, especially in retrospect with what we're seeing with Cody, the fact that they let Cody go just seems like such a terrible move. And just the whole thing with Punk, like, Marty, you often make fun of me about this, you know, I get it. I know that's not for everybody. I don't really understand, to be honest, I don't really understand the hate. The fact that Punk, like, again, left WWE because he was not happy. And I think has, like, just done a lot of really great stuff. Even when he came back to AEW, his program with MJF was really cool. He did a lot of really cool stuff. You know, he's a guy that doesn't get pushed around by these, like, corporate fucking assholes. I think that's something that I think is cool. I get that it's not for everyone. But just the stuff with that, the way that the brawl out thing got completely mishandled, to me, is, like, crazy to me. This idea that Punk got framed as being like this cancer because there was a backstage brawl at for AEW. Like, there's not backstage fights in locker rooms of, like, every sport. It's like a very common thing in every sport, and especially I imagine in pro wrestling locker rooms. There's been backstage fights for as long as wrestling has, like, been a thing, and the way that got blown up, and he got blamed for it, and they didn't take that thing that so many people were interested in, including me. I was so interested in that, and they didn't do anything with it. I think that's crazy. And then they let Punk go. Like, that is wild to me. That Tony Khan didn't just say, after that incident, that night of, just being like, okay, sit down, everyone sit down, let's get over this. Now, how do we make money out of this? How do we turn this into a big program? How do we turn this into a big main event? How do we turn that into a big feud? Like easy, no brainer. And the fact that didn't happen, I think, is, like, just bizarre to me. Here's some free heat for you. Yeah, no, thank you. And the company just hasn't been the same since. It has not been the same since. Yeah, no, Punk just lives rent-free in Tony's head, and he should. Like I said, he had two of the biggest stars in wrestling, in Cody Rhodes and Punk, and now they're both back in WWE in, like, main roles, especially Cody, who's the biggest star in wrestling right now, arguably. And when he was in AEW, he had this weird, like, he was, like, isolated from all the rest of the storylines. He was in the Codyverse or whatever. Never really part of the main event, like, never really taken seriously as like a main character. It's just strange. And I've talked about it before, that whole Punk press conference that happened before Brawl Out. You know, I was just, on a personal level, I not to get too into this, I was going through a very rough time when that happened. And I like psychologically latched onto it, that press conference. I psychologically latched onto this thing because there was a whole lot of shitty things happening in my life at that time. And I was just absolutely eating up every little iota of information about that. And the fact that they didn't take that and turn it into something is just perplexing to me, you know? He's just sitting there getting mad at the TV. Yeah, because, like, MJF called him, he's a mark. MJF was absolutely correct. I can't help but think that, like, Adam Cole made a big mistake too. I think Adam Cole there was still the Vince McMahon regime in place when he was possibly getting called up to the main roster, and he was looking at maybe a name change and maybe be like looking to have like be given saddled with some gimmick or whatever that he didn't want, and left to go to AEW and has a sizable spot in AEW now. But like probably now they could have been doing Undisputed Era on SmackDown or whatever right now, and it would be huge. And now he's just like in AEW performing to like nobody. I know nothing of wrestling, but Cody Rhodes is a bit of Dolph Lundgren in the 80s, early 90s look. He's not as like huge and intimidating as Dolph. The hair is the same, but the platinum blonde hair is just a very like a wrestling thing. I think the look that he's really going for is Homelander, which is funny because Homelander is like an evil, sadistic bastard, and Cody is like just like he's an unironic Homelander. I think you could probably make some case about the state of America and burgeoning American fascism with the American Nightmare's rise. I'm sure you could make some kind of a pseudo-intellectual case about that. I'm not going to do that right now, though. I still can't get over the neck tattoo either. The neck tattoo is it's just awful. I guess that's part of the story though as well. Accidentally getting a massive neck tattoo of your wrestling logo. That's part of the story also. Booker of the Year, we beat the Black and Gold NXT in ratings, so we decided to sign all their guys. Yeah, but even like what is Kyle O'Reilly doing in AEW? Is he doing anything interesting at all? Like, this is what I mean. It's like you're getting the guys. You have an incredible roster of people. But like, to what end? Is it just to have 5-star matches? So that like wrestling journalists will give you like 5-star ratings on your matches? Like, okay, that's fine. I love watching a nice 5-star match. You know? But it's like that can't be the whole purpose of your wrestling promotion. Ultimately, you're trying to like tell stories and get people excited and build big stars and build big angles. You know, it's not just about having great matches is awesome, but like that can't be the whole purpose of your wrestling promotion. Like Punk said in that interview the other day, it's not a real business. That's I think what pissed them off more than anything. He's just like, this is not a real business. I got out of a wrestling stream to come to a political stream, and the political stream is the wrestling stream. I'm just having a little brief wrestling talk. It's not every single day on this stream that we do wrestling talk. I do love pro wrestling, though, and it's a great time. There's a lot of stuff going on, so I'm just getting this out of the way, okay? It's not a full wrestling stream. My first experience with wrestling was a traveling amateur wrestling outfit that visited our trailer park in Puslinch, Ontario. AEW can never compete with some dude from London cracking his head open by accident on the beach. One of my first wrestling shows that I ever went to was, and this is like one of like from when I was really young, but there was a wrestling show at the Memorial Centre in Brockville, Ontario, where I grew up. And it was Killer Kowalski's like wrestling school was like putting on a show. And I saw at that show, this must have been like 92 or 93. I saw a young Triple H, aka Terra Rising, who was trained by Killer Kowalski, at a random, sparsely attended wrestling show at the Memorial Centre in Brockville, Ontario. My first wrestling show was a house show, and the main event was Dude Love versus the Sultan. Okay, the Sultan. I did go to a couple of Raws, too, in the mid-90s. I went to see a Raw. It was the summer that Lex Luger was getting that big All-American Lex Express push. So this is probably the summer between WrestleMania 9 and WrestleMania 10. And like everyone, Shawn Michaels and Owen Hart was there, and like everyone, it was really cool. Razor Ramon. I would like to go to a local show here sometime because there's often independent wrestling here. I got to see Lex versus Undertaker, Ric Flair versus Hitman around that time. Oh, Barbara, that sounds great. That sounds fantastic. I'm in Baltimore, so I went to Philly during a bunch of ROH shows during its popular heyday, Bucks, Omega, NJPW, crossover, etc. Portrait, one of my favorite shows that I've been to, was, I guess it must have been now 2014 or 15. I went to see Ring of Honor Global Wars in Toronto when they did the NJPW crossover. That's the same thing. Portrait. And the main event was Adam Cole versus Kevin Steen for the Ring of Honor World title. And like Okada was there, and I believe Nakamura was there. It was amazing. It was such a great show. I think it was the same tour. There you go. Yeah. That was so fun. Anybody remember when they had Backlund beat Hart and then realized 3 days later it was dumb and had Diesel retake the belt in a house show? Yeah, I do remember that. And it's weird that because that was actually a pretty good story. The whole like Backlund, the Bob Backlund heel turn. He was always like the white meat, you eat your vegetables, say your prayers, good guy. And he was just like an old hand whenever I was watching. And he turned into that like psycho. Yeah, the cross-faced chicken wing. And he became this absolute psycho. That was actually a really cool angle with him and Bret Hart. Backlund was also obviously good in the ring. Well, and I don't know if you've ever seen this, Sean, but like there was this promotion in Japan. I think it was the UWF. That was like, it was like common. It was like a half pro wrestling and half like shoot fighting. It was like shoot style wrestling. So it's like, it's pro wrestling, but it was really like grappling and like you
can count on me.
Big like striking and stuff like that.
Through all this.
And you can find Backlund's match. Backlund did a match in there in the early 90s, and it's like, oh shit, this guy can like fight. Crackety Kraken, thanks for the 38 months, tier 1. I appreciate you, Crackety Kraken. Thank you. Shoots should be the standard. Well, there's MMA for that now. That's the thing. If you want to watch that, you can watch MMA. Let me see if I can find it. Where I'm almost through with the wrestling talk, okay? There's some like full matches here, but I don't really want to watch the full match. This shit was really cool. Bob Backlund. This is what we're doing today. We're watching old Bob Backlund shoot-style pro wrestling matches. And as a more old school guy too, I do kind of miss this a little bit. Like I didn't see a lot of this, like the chain wrestling stuff. I like starting a match off with a couple minutes of chain wrestling and that kind of stuff. You don't see that as much anymore. I don't know what that was. That wasn't that exciting. But you know what I mean. Which of the 4 pillars is your guy? Pork tree. I am today and will forever be a Bret Hart guy. I'm a Bret Hart guy. The Hitman. He said it himself. The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And I still believe that to this day. The excellence of execution. I think he's a guy that even as an adult, like if I met Bret Hart, I think I would be a little flustered. I think I would be flustered if I met Bret in real life. At least he'd carry the conversation with how much he hates Goldberg. Exactly. That's one of my favorite, actually, ongoing bits. It's Bret Hart's just continual hate for Goldberg. I mean, we really got robbed of a late career Bret Hart run. You know, Shawn Michaels got that Renaissance period from like 2004 to what was it, 2010 or so? And it's a real shame that Bret was not physically able to have the same kind of like late career run, because he was just the best to ever do it, in my opinion. Can you explain this WWE clip? Let me see.
Big Show destroying Jindrak and Luther Reigns. Kurt Angle. What the hell is he? I don't know what he's doing, but Big Show's got Jindrak by the throat. Sure does. Oh my! Double what the hell? Angle's cold. What the?
See, that's just smart. That's just smart. That's Kurt Angle. You know, he's one of the best to ever do it as well. You got to use whatever options are available to you. This clip doesn't go on any longer. The 3 eyes of intelligence, exactly. That's one of the main eyes. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like WWE referees are not the sharpest. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, so like the baby face is pinning somebody. You're counting. All of a sudden, the manager's up on the apron. You're like, hey, I gotta stop the count. Get this manager out of here. This is illegal. You gotta get off the apron. All right. Hey, you're not allowed to be up here. And then they go down. And you're like, okay, now you're just volunteering to do it. And you turn around, and like the heel now is they're both knocked out, and the heel's has one arm over the baby face, and the ref's just like, huh. You know, like, that's weird. When I turned around, when I turned around, the situation was totally different. But, I'm just calling it down the middle. You got to count. I don't know if that's something they need to address it or not. Like, I do feel like when you're trying to have the kind of sports presentation and everyone's got the cameras, eventually you might have to kind of like confront this kind of contradiction. Like, okay, the someone cheated and the ref didn't see it. Okay, but there's video of it. Like, just because the ref in the ring didn't see it doesn't mean that you just need to like allow it to happen. It's like, oh well, he won. The ref didn't see the cheating, but like it was on camera. There's a whole production crew filming this. They all saw it. Like last year in the main event of WrestleMania, the Bloodline was ejected from ringside, including Solo Sikoa, ejected from ringside. They have to leave. Like, they have to leave and go away. And then what happens? Solo Sikoa comes right back, gives the Samoan spike to Cody, costs him the match. And then they're celebrating and he's in the ring. But it's like, you were clearly ordered by the referee to leave. What are you now doing in the ring? This was last year, though, Moan Jackerness. This was last year in the main event when Cody lost. This was not Bloodline rules. And the ref clearly did order the Solo and the Usos to leave the ringside. And then he comes back anyways and helps Roman win. And no one's like, that's not fair. That's not cool. I get that the ref didn't see it, but like, you'd think someone could come out and be like, hey, they cheated to do this. That's true. That's how Roman did defend most of his defenses. I still do acknowledge the tribal chief, though, just to be clear. I don't want anyone to think that I don't acknowledge Roman Reigns as my tribal chief and yours, because I do. I just think overall WWE could do a better job at enforcing the rules of professional wrestling, Okay, the ref didn't see the interference. Fine, I get it. It happens. It happens to the best of us. But like, you got all kinds of other people watching. You got other people like you got instant replay. There's no excuse. You know what I mean? In the world of instant replay, there's no excuse for missing these calls. IMO WWE having issues with kayfabe. Honestly, I kind of agree. I like the peek behind the curtain, and in a way, I kind of like that they're leaning into that kind of stuff. Sometimes I can't help but feel like it's like I have that old school mentality as well. It's like they're exposing the business, when they're going on TV and talking about like when did you get word that you were going to be losing this match or whatever. I hate that. I don't even Rock in the last couple of weeks was talking about, oh yeah, behind the scenes. I was thinking, what if I came back as a bad guy and stuff like that? I'm not into that. I would like them to protect the kayfabe a little bit more. If you're going to be a bad guy, that was the real old school wrestling thing, right? If you're a bad guy, that means you're a bad guy. That means you don't mix with the good guy wrestlers. You don't show up at the bar with them. You don't show them hanging out afterwards, I think they can do a little bit more. I think it's too exposed. I think the behind the curtain stuff is too much. Or like if there's a place for that, like a podcast or whatever, okay. But I think they can do more to not, because it's just like it's like if you're watching a TV show and it's like all of a sudden the characters in the TV show that you're enjoying, you're getting immersed in, you're getting you're suspending your disbelief to watch a TV show, and then it's like the characters in the TV show turn to the camera and be like, by the way, this is all, I'm an actor, by the way. I'm an actor, and this is all like pretend, just so you know, just so you know, this is all pretend. It's like, And I guess in between filming TV series, actors are going on TV and they're not pretending to be the characters. But I guess that's what makes wrestling different. It's what makes wrestling different and fun, is that it's not reality, but it kind of is. Yeah, maybe you're right, Daggett. When I was saying that, some people think actors are the characters. It's true. Why is it called WWE? Didn't it used to be called WWF? They changed it because of the World Wildlife Foundation. And they changed it to World Wrestling Entertainment. And I don't even think it stands for anything. I think it's just WWE now. I think they're exposing the business a little bit too much. I would like to pull that back a little tiny bit. Postmodernist production approach in WWE is something I like as more as someone who doesn't really respect kayfabe, but I think they should be catering to their fans and not me. Yeah, I mean, that's a good way of looking at it. Like I said, it's like, I get it. And I get, like, if you're The Rock, for instance, you don't necessarily want to be going into a crowd and calling them all pieces of trailer park trash and stuff, and then trying to encourage them to go to your next movie at the movie theater. Is Rob a character? Was this all a facade? Well, just similar to pro wrestling, Joe, the Rob Rousseau character that you know is really just me with everything kind of turned up a little bit, with everything turned up to 11. Rob's actually a British man, as you know. Yeah. I've talked about that multiple times. I don't know, Mon Jackerness. I was saying earlier, like I've absolutely loved this Rock final boss character. I think it's fantastic. I think there could be a little bit more to protect the business, which is another reason I respect CM Punk, because even though he'll talk about behind the scenes stuff, they'll never go as far. They'll talk about the behind the scenes stuff, but they'll still kind of maintain a certain kayfabe, or they'll respect the reality of wrestling. I kind of can't wait for our 5-year-old to be old enough to go to local wrestling shows. Yeah, I mean, I've tried a bunch of times to get my kid into it, and like he likes it, but I've never shown him something that got him to really become obsessed with it. I did show Rock beating the shit out of Cody. I showed that to my kid, and he was kind of upset by that. I feel like kayfabe still exists if you just watch wrestling and don't go all in on the auxiliary stuff. Yeah, but then if you're a fan, you just want to look at it. Did CM Punk screw McIntyre or what? Well, listen, in fact, one of my favorite things to do on that front is to talk about wrestling in kayfabe. I think that's one of my favorite things to do, which I enjoy a lot. But first of all, McIntyre has been amazing the last couple of weeks. I'm a huge fan of Drew McIntyre. Another guy that got fired and went and reinvented himself and went to the indies and fucking dominated and made himself into a big star caliber, main event caliber person, and then came back. So huge respect for that. Super charismatic. Looks fantastic. Looks like $1 million. But listen, when he won the world title on Sunday, he took his eye off the ball. He was too busy gloating. He was too busy trying to rub it in CM Punk's face. And he got what was coming to him. Unfortunately, I want him to succeed. But he took his eye off the ball. And that's what happens. I'm really not sold on Damian Priest as like a main event caliber, world title caliber guy. I like him. He's good. He's got a good look. I'm not crazy about some of the look, but He's not terrible, but he doesn't. He does. I don't feel like he's ready for this kind of like main event stature. Okay, this has been quite a while of wrestling talk. We might have to move on from this now. I can't do an entire pro wrestling episode of the show. I think he is, but he's insulated with pure star power and Dom Mysterio and Rhea and Finn Balor as well, who's really good. Well, hopefully they'll do some angle to put him in a better spot. Why are the subs not rolling in? It's just a mystery, Dakadoon. It's just a mystery. It's just a complete mystery. While the subs and the viewers are not just rampaging in here. You just have to stream all day and night and start a wrestling stream. That's right. That's right. I mean, I wouldn't be if I felt like there was a possibility to do it. Rampage doesn't try there. I would kind of like to do a dedicated wrestling thing because I do, as you can tell, I enjoy talking about it and I enjoy, engaging with it. It is true that the tanky pro wrestling overlap is massive. I don't totally understand why that is, but I don't totally understand why. You need a co-host. Well, Marty, if I ever want to do anything like serious when it comes to wrestling, I'll reach out. I do have kind of a sneaky idea to eventually, if someone eventually like retires, or because there's in like the former wrestler podcast, like there's big audiences for that. So I'm hoping one day I can pitch someone if they ever leave wrestling or leave WWE or whatever, pitch someone on doing a podcast like one of these other wrestlers. You need a southern accent.
You can count on
a
me
wrestling
and
show.
Good old Rob to talk you through all this.
I'm not familiar with wrestling, so I'm here to sit and listen.
Up the Reds, thanks very much for the 26 months of Prime. That's the attitude. When you don't know, you just sit your ass down and listen. We should all take a lesson from this. We should all take a lesson from this attitude. Okay, well, that may do it. That may do it for the wrestling talk. The question is, what to do now? What to do now? That's the question. If you ever want to seriously do that and build something, let me know, man. More than happy to help brand a wrestling stream. Well, we'll see how it goes. For me, it's just a question of time. I have all kinds of ideas for different projects to do. I would love to do a wrestling show. I want to do a show like either a limited series or a show where you have to have seasons and you focus on different like pop culture properties. I want to get someone to watch Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip with me and do a podcast about that. I have all kinds of ideas for shows and streams and stuff to do, but it's just literally a question of how many hours in the day that I have to think about this stuff and work on this kind of stuff. Because I feel like I feel like I'm not even able to do everything that I need to do for this show. Like, I need to be every single day making clips of this show and putting it on TikTok and clips of the podcasts. I'm behind on podcast stuff. Like, I don't even have enough hours in the day to do the stuff for the work I'm currently doing now. As always, that's my problem. So we will see. One thing I have been working on is this script that I've been going on for quite some time now, but have made a bunch of progress on that over the last couple of weeks, which is really exciting. I don't know if it's going to turn into anything. I don't know if it will, but if it did, it would be pretty cool. I'm keeping my expectations very low. I'm keeping my expectations as low as possible. I'm telling myself that it's just not going to happen. And then if it does, I will be very pleasantly surprised. Have you heard of time management? Yeah, no, I've not, actually, Dr. Maggot. I've heard of the concept of time management. I'm familiar with the idea. But I have what's known in the medical field as a bad brain. My brain is bad, unfortunately, and it makes it sometimes difficult to find the time to figure this stuff out. Many such cases, it's true. Many such cases. I've actually been clinically diagnosed with bad brain since 8th grade. Robert, so banned in DC. Not yet. Not yet. No, I haven't tried to go. Maybe I am. I don't know. Yeah, I was clinically diagnosed with bad brain in like 2014. And I think I've only, in terms of an actual diagnosis, I think I've only scratched the surface of how I think I've only scratched the surface of how bad the brain really is. You know, sometimes I say shit on here and I'm like, you know what, maybe they're going to let this slide this time. Maybe they're going to let this slide this time. It's been like 5-10 seconds. I don't see anything yet. Maybe they're going to let me off the hook on this one. Maybe they're just going to let this one slide and then, nope. And interesting, Max198Z says, not on what's watch. Not on what's watch. That's interesting. What's that supposed to mean exactly? Not on what's watch, he said. Wow. Yeah, I'll absolutely do it to you. Okay? I'm up here talking every single day for several hours a day. What are you doing? You're just typing. You're just typing on a phone. It's autocorrect. Well, guess what? I got autocorrect of the brain. It is only fair to call out Chatter flubs. I think it's more than fair. I think it's absolutely significantly more than fair to do exactly that. Yep. Well, we can get to talking about the more important stuff soon. In a couple minutes here. This has been some good chit chat. I do love when we do wrestling talk on the show, so it's not something that happens like every single day, so I do enjoy being able to take a little bit of time to do that. I will absolutely come for you, though. Chat, I'll come for you. I'll come for you if you make mistakes. I will hold the mistake. I'll talk about the mistakes. I do need a technical difficulty screen. It's true. I was literally just thinking that right now, old Dutch. I was thinking maybe I could just take this screen and it says will be, and I could just slap on like a right back thing. Nothing happened. Nothing happened, Diego. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Nothing happened. The Simpsons technical difficulty screens are great. Yeah, I love those. Rob's return to his home planet. Okay. 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 There's a few videos and stuff that we can take a look at here. There's some new footage that was released of like Qassam forces ambushing the IDF. I don't know if everyone saw those. I can't show them on the stream because they're quite violent, but I don't know if everyone saw those. Some of the craziest footage yet that I've seen from this conflict. I do see John Elmer on EI talking a bit about that. Maybe that's something we can take a look at. I would recommend seeking those out, old Dutch. They're quite insane. There is this story. I'm gonna do a little interlude to just transition into this next segment. Just so there's a kind of like, you know, some blocks here, programming blocks. I want to get your input on a topic. If I send you a tip/dono to your PayPal, will you read the question, or do you need to put the question in the chat? I mean, I would certainly appreciate if a question is attached to a tip, because I am trying to make a small living from doing this show. That would probably help, definitely. It would depend on what the question is still. Is it a crypto thing? Is that what it is? And on that subject as well, if anyone's watching and wants to support this program, I know it's been a lot of wrestling talk. Some people enjoy that. Some people probably don't enjoy it quite as much. But if you do enjoy this program, we are going to transition to talking about more serious topics now. So if you do enjoy the show, please subscribe if you can and help keep the show on the air by making the little number at the bottom of the screen go up. I must make the little number at the bottom of the screen go up each and every day. So if you can, please subscribe or give subs. It helps me out a lot. It helps me keep the show on the air. It's the only way that I can keep doing the show every day is if people do support the program and subscribe to the show. So please do that if you can. I was kind of thinking about going to see that Civil War movie tonight. It's getting pretty good reviews. That Alex Garland Civil War movie. I'm considering going to that tonight. Did you see they thank Andy No in the credits? No, I did not, but that's not really great, to say the least. I don't love that. Was he like the Antifa correspondent or something? Amazing that he's still taken seriously as some kind of like journalist figure. Just a pure scumbag piece of shit, that guy. Was he their expert on U.S. history? Okay, well that's not really the same thing. So I guess I mean, this is kind of a little bit misleading, this tweet. It says, in case you were wondering about watching Civil War, they thank actual Nazis in the credits, like Andy No. I can't speak to Helen Lewis. I don't know, but it doesn't. It says archive video footage supplied by Andy No, which is unfortunate. He does probably have a lot of, because he was in his role as a fascist propagandist, he does have a lot of footage from these protests that he would show up at in an effort to like spin it into like a fascist agitprop. So I understand that probably if they want to use footage from some of these rallies, he's going to be someone that they're probably going to maybe reach out to. It pointedly does not say thank you. It does say to Helen Lewis. I'm not really familiar with Helen Lewis, but anyway, still pretty unfortunate. I don't think it, like, politically, I think this movie seems like a mess from what I understand. Politically, I think there's probably going to be a lot of problems with it. I'm not expecting it to have like a really coherent politics. I still think it might be a well-crafted and fun and suspense, maybe not fun, but like a well-crafted kind of like action-y thriller movie about this kind of like interesting angle about something, that possible sort of future of America. I'm not expecting it to have a really coherent politics. I'm probably still going to go check it out, though. Not because I think it's going to be politically really solid. It's not going to be like a pro socialism movie. I highly doubt. We're doing a movie night in the Discord for it. Yeah, absolutely. But I don't think it's only in theaters right now, right? I don't think there's like a good version. It's the HD version or whatever floating around out there. I saw a tweet from someone asking when Kirsten Dunst got old, and I saw that as well. Well, she was in her mid-20s in the mid-2000s, and now it's the mid-20s, and she's older now. That's kind of just how it works. It's not that exciting, you know? It's not some big conspiracy. She's just a middle-aged woman now. Believe me, I know the feeling. And even looking at Kirsten Dunst, it's not like she looks like super old or anything. I got older too, exactly. Like, I get it. Ugh. So, didn't hear anything from that guy about the tip situation, and zero responses to my call to action. So, one more time before we move on here. If you can, please do subscribe to this program. Please help me keep this show on the air. The only way that I'm able to keep doing this show each and every day, this show that you love for whatever reason, that you tune into day after day for whatever reason. Don't ask me to explain it, but some people do. The only way that this show exists is if people subscribe and the little number at the bottom of the screen goes up. Oh, there we go. Icecore, thank you for the $5.
You can count on me. You're going to have
With
good old Rob
advancements
to
in
talk you
technology
through all
such
this.
as AI,
Long
what do you
live
think about the
TRRS.
government enforcing changes to the new technology?
Sorry, now trying to pay attention to the question, and I got multiple things going on, which is not good for the old bad brain as well. Ian DJ Cooper, thanks for the 31 months of tier 1. I appreciate it. I'm not like this kind of, I don't have this Luddite approach to AI. I think there's really interesting things going on with this technology. It feels more like a real tangible technology that's come out of the kind of tech sector in the way that all these Web3 things didn't. Crypto and all this bullshit that just turned out to, and NFTs and all this stuff that in the metaverse that just turned out to be this like a big pile of nothing. I think there's pretty interesting things about this, like about this technology, like just the fact that I can open up ChatGPT and have a conversation with it and have like a back and forth conversation, I think is like pretty remarkable. That's like kind of stuff that I imagined growing up existing. And I don't think that's Indian. I don't think it would be possible to go in real time to have a real time response like that. I know a lot of it is just like it's mechanical Turks all the way down. I think it's cool too, but ultimately it'll be used by evil against us by capitalists. Well, that's it. It's who's wielding this technology. That's the question. Oh goodness, Risk Inverse. Thanks for the $20. Thank you, Risk Inverse.
Slibtarib PLS.
Mechanical Turks. Well, the Mechanical Turk, Joe, was it was this I think it was in like the 18th century. It was this like chess computer in the 18th century that got brought on all these like exhibitions, and people would try to defeat this like machine. It was a machine that played chess, and no one knew how it worked, and it would go to all these like exhibits, and they would bring it around the world, and people would play this machine, and they would lose to this chess playing machine. And the way it worked is there was a person inside the machine. A like chess master would be inside the machine. And that's how this machine worked. And that's how a lot of AI works as well. Like a lot of this kind of technology. Just subcontracting to like people in the third world. So I think there's a lot of that in this kind of technology. And with the... So I'm not a Luddite about it. I think it's cool and interesting, but it really depends on who's wielding this technology. If this technology is being wielded by these like soulless tech companies, you know, is it going to be used to like make our lives better? This is part of the problem. It's like we're creating technology to automate creative work. And I've always known that something like that was coming. As a creative person, I think it's like a little disturbing, but I don't think human beings are ever going to stop writing or making art or making music or anything like that. Really what I would like to do is automate our work that we have to do so we have more time to be creative. We're doing it the opposite way. We're automating the creative stuff so we have time to just work at shitty jobs. That's the opposite of the way the AI should be being used, I think. Our jobs should be getting automated so we have to work less and we have more time to paint paintings and write poetry and screenplays and, you know, work on creative projects and doing creative things. Like that, I think, is probably the way that this kind of automated technology should work. Overall, its potential for misuse to be used to create disinformation, manipulate people. I think there's some real issues there, and it is something that the government is going to have to step into. But at the same time, you know, there's potential for misuse there. And when our states start to determine who's allowed to use this technology and who's not, they're going to be the ones that are allowed to use it, and they're going to use it to wage information wars against us. So I think it's something that does need to be regulated a lot more than it currently is. I don't know if that's going to happen, though. I don't think there's any really real effort being made to actually meaningfully regulate this in any way. I think we're stepping into a world where we're like fairly soon, because like we're still in the very infancy of this technology, and fairly soon it's going to become increasingly more difficult to tell what is real and what's not real. Like we're on the verge of this kind of almost very terrifying dystopian future where it becomes virtually impossible to know right away whether something that we're seeing is real or not real, which presents a whole lot of problems, obviously. But I don't know that anything's going to be done about this. Yanis Varoufakis' tech feudalism is partly a branding exercise, but mostly ideological contortions because he's a committed liberal, so it allows him to argue for a return to more humane capitalism that never actually existed and never will. See also Naomi Klein. I mean, this is when people have really great values and ideas, but have this mental block of the anti-communism thing. And unfortunately, that mental block allows their analysis to only go so far. They'll never make the leap, especially like that generation who was really came up at the end of the Soviet Union and stuff, and came up in a Western left. Yanis Varoufakis is from Greece, obviously, but I'm talking more about Naomi Klein. Came up in a Western left that was like kind of instinctually anti-communist. Yeah, anyway, Ice Core, I don't know if that answered your question. I do think this stuff does need to be regulated more, but I don't know that that's going to happen, and I also don't know if I trust the current people in our government to make these regulations. And I think this technology isn't just blanket good or bad, but it entirely depends on who's wielding this technology. Disaster capitalism, techno-feudalism, like it's all one thing. Yeah, and the thing is, with the disaster capitalism, I think you have an important idea there that really helped me understand a lot of this stuff. The way that like disasters are used to institute this kind of like shock doctrine stuff, and the way that this is like used to like funnel money upwards, basically. Like I think there's something of value there, but ultimately, I think it's just like, let's do the ultimate idea behind some of this stuff is like, let's do capitalism better. Let's be more humane. Let's have more of a social democracy. Which is ultimately, I think, not really going far enough. It's the economic system that's the problem in and of itself. Not even the economic system, because we've seen other countries use this economic system to their advantage while also maintaining a different kind of values. But it's when that ecosystem becomes completely intertwined with like the ideology. That's when I think there's no going back. You know, that's what's never going to work. Of course, there's value to different lenses of analysis, but it's a way to just reverse Uno back to some mythical liberal democracy. Yeah, I think there's definitely a part of it like that. And I think a year or so ago, I don't know when it was, we talked about her comments about China. She called it a techno-feudalist dystopian sweatshop to the world or something like that, which I think is like a really reductive way of looking at China. And it's just an example of someone who formed an opinion about China and capitalism in the early 90s and have not changed their analysis even when China has changed a lot, especially over the last 10, 15 years. You know what I mean? Like, I understand having the skepticism of that in the early 90s, but I think you also have to have the ability to reevaluate things. And I think China today currently is not the China of the early 90s, and have pulled back on a lot of these kind of like economic methods and ideas. And I think has gone through this remarkable transformation, which we should celebrate and try and learn from and not just dismiss, because we're still stuck in the early 90s mindset. That's always been my stance, you know? I get where the skepticism comes from, but clearly there's something happening there that's, I think, really interesting and exciting, and something that we should be paying attention to, and not just like dismissing out of hand. We could watch this with Yanis Varoufakis. I saw there was an Al Jazeera piece as well about Germany we could look at. But this could be good. I mean, while we're talking about this could be very good. I guess just one more time before we move on, I would like to still remind folks to please subscribe to this program if you can. I'm a measly 26 subs to go to get to the goal. Should be no problem. If you can, folks, please do subscribe to this show. It's the only way that I'm able to put on this show every single day. Is if people subscribe to TRRS.
We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Can't slub today, but here's a few bits. Holding out for a hero of sorts.
Thank you, Joe, for the 200 bits.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Only 6 more months.
Hell yeah, Gwynny, thank you. 30 months tier 1, 6 more months indeed, to a very exciting and special sub badge. Very, very cool. Do we have any other takers before we move on? Do we have any other takers that want to support this program? TRRS, the show that you're currently watching, starring me, Rob Rousseau.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Donnie. Thank you, Donnie. Phone's ringing, dude. Thank you, Donnie. I appreciate that, Donnie. Thank you for that. Yeah, so we can watch this Rania and Giannis Varoufakis clip. Like, I have a criticism for some of these folks. We were talking about Giannis Varoufakis, Naomi Klein. I still appreciate them both quite a lot. I mean, both of them have been like important figures for me. Like I said, reading Shock Doctrine when I did really helped push me along the kind of path that I've been on to get to this point. So that's when people, I still appreciate people that played a role for me like that. And I'll always appreciate Naomi Klein for, helping push me into the places I am now. I spoke to her on my podcast. She's a very nice person. I was happy to speak to her. I have a criticism sometimes for some of this stuff and some of this kind of like very Gen X way of looking at things. Still a huge amount of respect for her, and I still do enjoy Giannis as well, and I think he's been pretty good. On this. And this is what the clip is. Europeans have no rights to tell Palestinians how to escape their prison.
Why
with Giannis Varoufakis.
To condemn Hamas when in fact, it's actually so easy to do that. And there are repercussions for not playing that game.
I'm not passing judgment on Hamas because Hamas, for better or for worse, ended up being the only resistance organization that expressed this duty, not right, but duty of the people of Gaza, of the people of Palestine generally, to bring down the wall.
I want to ask you about the European left intelligentsia.
Give me Donald Trump anytime. Give me a fascist. Seriously. I want to see the enemy who stares at me and says, you shouldn't have the right to exist. I'm going to wipe you out. I can handle that. I cannot handle comrades who are out of spinelessness. They crave the appreciation of the people who are complicit in the genocide of Palestinians. And that is worse, for me, is a worse failure, moral failure, than being a Zionist.
Hello everyone, I'm Rania Kalik and this is Dispatches. As the genocide in Gaza accelerates, it's clear that the depths of Israeli and US depravity know no bounds. No matter what Israel does, whether intentionally killing aid workers or summarily executing doctors at hospitals in Gaza, the media covers it up with parroted claims about a Hamas presence, while US spokespeople harp on the tired talking point about the need to protect Israel's security above all else. And the Europeans either applaud their US masters or shrug as if totally powerless to stop their settler vassal state. Joining me to discuss this and more is Giannis Varoufakis, economist, political leader, former Greek finance minister, and the author of many books, including his latest, Techno-Feudalism: What Killed Capitalism. He's also co-founder of the international grassroots movement, DM25, and a professor of economics at the University of Athens. But before we jump into it,
huge amount of respect for Yanis Varoufakis as well for like trying in Greece as part of the movement that he was part of to like push back on this like EU dictated austerity agenda that was being enforced on Greece. And we complain all the time in the West about, oh, we need a new party, we need to do this. Well, in Greece, they started a new party and became very popular. And they said to the EU, no, fuck you, we're not doing austerity. And they got forced, they got basically like blackmailed and forced to give up. And the EU, led by Angela Merkel, deliberately and purposely destroyed that popular movement within Greece, which has just opened the door now for fascists. So I mean, we can criticize, have middling criticisms of people like Giannis sometimes, but like someone who has actually put skin in the game and has actually like been in the room with powerful people trying to make these kinds of big changes.
this is just part of this episode. The full interview is available to Breakthrough News members only.
Like I was saying, I think the fundamental thing when it comes to this whole idea of like techno-feudalism, what killed capitalism, is kind of maybe letting the capitalist system off the hook, or suggesting that it's been perverted or distorted or mutated somehow. And I think that's the complaint, right? That's the kind of criticism here, is that it's not that it was mutated or distorted, but that it was always inherently fascistic and imperialistic, and was always based in exploitation, was always based in dehumanization. I think that's the criticism we could make there, but still someone huge amount of respect for.
Become a member at patreon.com/breakthrough news. And as always, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell so you get a notification whenever we post new content. And if you appreciate this show, you can also donate below on YouTube.
And please do support
Yanis Varoufakis,
Breakthrough News and
welcome to the
Rania's
show.
work.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Well, it's such a pleasure to have you on. I really appreciate you making the time. And I think I just want to jump right into what I think is a good place to start. And that is what recently took place with the destruction of Shifa Hospital in Gaza and the killing of those 7 aid workers with the World Central Kitchen in Gaza by the Israelis. We're going to talk about some other tangentially related things, but just, very briefly, what are your thoughts on these latest atrocities? Because it does feel like every day you think it can't get worse, and Israel does something worse.
Indeed. The greatest worry I have with every such atrocity, beyond the fact that I can't sleep at night, at the thought that all these crimes against humanity are being perpetrated in my name, in the name of citizens of Europe, in the name of the West, to which, for better or for worse, I supposedly belong. My greatest worry is the process of desensitizing public opinion. Because with the escalation of the death toll, of the kill rate by the IDF, it's really very hard to keep up the pace of one's outrage in conjunction, pro rata, with the actual outrage. So it's so very easy for people to say, oh, well, so how many people were killed today in what hospital? Only 50? Oh, okay. Well, yesterday, 60 were killed. So this process of desensitizing public opinion, I have no doubt that it's an intricate part of the strategy of the Israeli warmongers, of the ones who are actually planning those atrocities. These atrocities are not accidents. They are not the result of some rogue Israeli colonel making decisions on the ground. This is a stratagem. And in conjunction with the toxic hypocrisy coming from Washington, from Berlin, from
Same
London,
to you,
from
Isaac,
Athens,
boy.
I suffocate. I personally feel I'm suffocating.
And that's a really good way to put it. And I like the word toxic hypocrisy. It really is just completely stunning. And, Yanis, one thing that I want to ask you about specifically is, after just a few days, I think after October 7th, you did something I really appreciated. And that is, in an interview, you refused to play the game of condemning Hamas, and you have continued to refuse to play that game. You even said, and I'm quoting you, the criminals here are not Hamas, the criminals are Europeans. And the reason that I appreciated this so much is because across the political spectrum in the global north, right after October 7th, everybody was full of condemnation for Hamas, condemnation for October 7th. You know, even in some cases, if they have expressed sympathy with Palestinians. So I'm curious, you know.
I tweeted this on October 7th, on the day of. Many people were not very happy about this. I said, people love to be able to support Palestine until they actually start defending themselves. And then it's time to worry about your media career. And many people were not very happy about that. But I stand by that sentiment. I stand by that sentiment, and I feel on a personal level, not to make it about me, I'm glad that I refused to give in to that kind of climate at that time, either on this show or elsewhere. I mean, folks, this is why, this is why I feel you can trust me. Okay? There are many ways over the last few years that I could have pivoted to having more of a mainstream platform. There's been multiple off-ramps for me personally to try and have more of be taken seriously. And I have not taken these off-roads at any time. I've denied myself this ability on numerous occasions. And I could probably maybe I would have a larger platform. Maybe I would have me making a better living, whatever. But I just can't fucking help myself. I just can't help myself. Anyway, sorry, I don't want to interrupt Rania and Yanis Varoufakis to talk about how great I am, but it's just, that's all. That's all I wanted to say.
Nearly 6 months into this, why do you refuse to condemn Hamas when, in fact, it's actually so easy to do that, and there are repercussions for not playing that game?
Because I've been to Gaza. I've been to Ramallah. I've seen the infrastructure of apartheid. I've seen the long queues of Palestinians being ritually humiliated. I have seen the open prison camp, concentration camp that is Gaza. And therefore I know in my bones that any people who have been placed under such conditions for such a very long time have a
That's right, Diego.
duty to themselves to bring down the wall, to quote Roger Waters and Pink Floyd, to bring down the bloody wall. In war, as part of the Geneva Convention, it's a recognized duty of prisoners of war to escape. What about 2 million people who have been encased behind barbed wire?
Isn't it frustrating how the Berlin Wall has kind of been held up as this symbol for Soviet socialist totalitarianism for all these years? Who partitioned Berlin? Why was Berlin partitioned in the first place? Why was Berlin split into two? What did the West have anything to do? The Soviets captured Berlin. Why was it partitioned into two? Why did the West get West Berlin in the first place? That's always I think that's always been kind of a way to promote a kind of certain narrative, but is, I think, a lot more complex when you actually break it down, when you think about it more. Because, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Germany was split into East Germany and West Germany, but Berlin was part of East Germany, or should have been. But then it's the West is but we want it too, though. So why, though? You didn't capture Berlin. The Soviets did. Anyway. That's my point, though, is the wall has always been Mr. Gorbachev, bring down that wall. It's always been held up as this example of socialist totalitarianism. But it's like, why was that wall there in the first place? I think that's an interesting question. Kind of like how Jerusalem is actually in the middle of the West Bank. Yes, it is kind of like that.
Whose children were malnourished before the 7th of October. 60% of kids, according to the United Nations, were malnourished before the 7th of October.
That would be so sick, Carrier Wave.
Who have no right to dream. Their airport was tore up by the Israeli army. There is no port. Netanyahu himself made the point that we will keep them hungry, but not to the level of famine. He was saying that for years before the 7th of October. The people who find themselves in that situation would not be human if they didn't try to bring down that wall. Now, I'm not passing judgment on Hamas because Hamas, for better or for worse, ended up being the only resistance organization that expressed this duty, not right, but duty of the people of Gaza, of the people of Palestine generally, to bring down the wall. Do I agree with Hamas? It doesn't matter. It is irrelevant. Because you see, there is this truth reversal here. Allow me to share with you a shocking conversation I had last Thursday with a German, quite well-known politician. I'm not at liberty to mention his name because it was private conversation. But he's somebody high up in the SPD, the Social Democratic Party in the German government, who had the audacity.
So a Nazi.
Went beyond accusing me of being a Hamas sympathizer. He effectively
Germany lecturing people about genocide and anti-Semitism is really something else.
Somebody who was sympathizing with the Nazis.
Going back to Germany,
a social democrat in the German government.
Germany needs to be denazified once and for all. This is the problem, right? We talk about East versus West Germany. Well, the West was free and the East was not free. Look at the wall. West Germany never denazified. And now Germany needs to be denazified again. Now you've got Germans helping carry out a genocide in Palestine and lecturing everyone else about how compassionate they are and how much they care about anti-Semitism. Germany. Yeah, Aliyah Bunima has been calling for Germany to be permanently disarmed and neutralized. Or, why didn't ask that question again? Like, why didn't Israel get put in Germany then? If the creation of Israel has anything to do with the Holocaust, why not put Israel in Germany? Why is it in Palestine? Why are Palestinians being punished for the sins of Germany? And Germany's supplying the bombs and the weapons and the political support to commit genocide against a people who are paying for their crimes. What the fuck? It's truly unbelievable. Like, it really is. And this is why they're being correctly implicated in these genocide hearings now. It's just amazing, isn't it? It's just truly remarkable.
German. Now, why are you, as a Greek, kicking and screaming about tens of thousands of Palestinian children being killed? And at that point, my blood started boiling. And he said, I'm German. I condone the fact that hundreds of thousands of children in Germany were killed by the Allies in the context of defeating Hitler. So you see what happens here. Here's a German condoning the killing of hundreds of thousands of German children, and by that justifying the tens of thousands of Palestinian children who are being killed by making the association Nazis, Gaza. Which is,
and by the way, anyone who has contributed to this narrative about October 7th and the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust has, even when they're trying to support Palestine, have promoted that narrative. Gaza equals Nazis. Hamas equals Nazis. And I think there's people who have big media platforms and independent media, who have been trying to do the right thing, who have been trying to stand with Palestine, but still in the days following October 7th made this exact same case, which I think is incoherent. I think if you say those two things at the same time, I stand with Palestine, free Palestine, and also October 7th is the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust, you're undermining your own argument. You're saying this was the worst, this is like a Nazi attack based in like hate and anti-Semitism, but also you need to not attack these people. Like, which is it? And that's one thing that I think a lot of people got wrong in the days following October 7th, like I was mentioning.
Truth reversal in the history of the last 300 years. Because essentially, the victims, who are the Palestinians, of ethnic cleansing, of a racialized terra nullius project of treating them as non-human before they were ethnically cleansed, beginning with the Nakba in 1948, the victims are being presented as the Nazis. So the condemnation of Hamas is part of this truth reversal, because when I said to him, I was trying to keep my cool, right? And I said to him at some point, you're part of a government that believes in the two-state solution. Yes? Yes. Well, you are aiding and abetting the Prime Minister, Mr. Netanyahu, and the whole cabal, everybody who is in that government, and many guns who will replace him if somebody replaces him, who do not believe in the two-state solution, whose raison d'etre, the whole point of their existence, they came to this world to kill the two-state solution. That's what they did. After the Palestinians, mistakenly as it turns out, went through the Oslo Accords, and the Palestinian Authority, the PLO, Fatah recognized Israel. Israel never recognized Palestine. They recognized the PLO. What did Ariel Sharon and then Benjamin Netanyahu set out to do? To kill off any chances of a two-state solution. And you're supporting it. Huh? And why is Hamas a topic of discussion? Because Netanyahu succeeded in killing off the two-state solution. Yeah. In 1992, Hamas was irrelevant. So the direction of causality, the relation between cause and effect is Netanyahu and his cabal killed off the two-state solution, and that gave rise to Hamas.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And here is the German government saying that because there is Hamas, there cannot be no two-state solution. So you see, you have truth reversal after truth reversal. And who was the author, the guru of truth reversal? Joseph Goebbels. He's very proud of them.
Yes. And his, the people who are like him today are like Matt Miller and these spokespeople at the State Department. Watching them drives me crazy.
Sickos.
But, I think this goes into another point that I've often seen you make, Giannis, which is it's about the timeline, this truth reversal you're talking about. It's also what began when, right? It's not just that it didn't start on October 7th, but Israel's supporters are excellent at starting the timeline whenever it's most convenient to their narrative. And it's something the U.S. does very well, too. They have to take land for their security to prevent another October 7th from happening, but they'll just pretend it wasn't, all a result of the fact that they've been stealing this land since even before 1948. And then, they do the same thing with Lebanon as well. They'll say, oh, like Hezbollah's in Lebanon, so the fact that it exists is why they have to bomb Lebanon, but they bombed Lebanon before Hezbollah existed, and that's actually why Hezbollah exists.
Indeed.
It's such a convenient narrative, and I guess I'm just adding to what you're saying, but I like the idea of calling it truth reversal. Another thing I'm curious if I can get your comment on here is it's always portrayed in this like discussion about Israel's security, right? Israel's security and American and Western interests. What I'm not beginning to understand, what I've always understood is that the Middle East is not safe. It's not secure with the existence of a settler colony here. Like, that's the problem. And it just comes to the idea of like, how come the security of Palestinians and the people in this region don't matter? It's always about Israel's security.
Well, that's the result of the manner in which Israel was put together. And, speaking of when did the whole thing begin? It began with anti-Semitism in Europe. We Europeans carried out pogrom after pogrom against the Jews. It wasn't in Israel.
And when Jews tried to escape to Canada and the United States, they were told to go fuck themselves. While we're still lecturing people about the Holocaust and anti-Semitism and how compassionate we are.
Palestine. It wasn't just in Jerusalem. The Jews living in Jerusalem next to...
Israel exists in a tough neighborhood as such a gross distortion of settler colonialism. Yeah, like perhaps it's a tough neighborhood because you've given this country, this nuclear-armed, highly militarized ethno-state, carte blanche to do ethnic cleansing and genocide for multiple generations. Perhaps that's contributing to this tough neighborhood that it exists in.
Palestinians lived in perfect harmony compared to the life of Jews in Odessa, in Berlin, in Spain, from where the Catholics chucked them out. And they ended up where? Where did they have, besides Jerusalem, where did the Jews find some sanctuary? It was in Thessaloniki, Greece's second city, and in Constantinople, in Istanbul.
Hello.
In the Ottoman Empire. That's where the Jews had, the greatest amount of security. It was in Eastern Europe, in Britain, in Central Europe, in Southern Europe, in my country. Yeah. At some point, my grandmother, when I was, 10, 11, 12, she was telling me the stories about how in her village they would burn the Jew, not an effigy of the Jew. But anti-Semitism was rampant throughout Europe. So that's where it began. And we went from pogrom to pogrom and then to the Holocaust. That had nothing to do with the Palestinians, with the Lebanese, with the Arabs. Absolutely zero to do with that. And then what started as the white supremacist ideology of the British Empire. Because remember, and I was in Australia 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I had the opportunity of addressing the National Press Club with all the press in Canberra, in the capital of the federal capital of Australia. I said to them, folks, remember how it all started here in Australia? When Captain Cook, representing the British Empire, came to Botany Bay and proclaimed Australia to be terra nullius, an empty land. Essentially, he looked at all the Aborigines and he said, these are not humans. It's an empty land. How did Zionism set foot in Palestine? Under the slogan, the vile slogan, a land without a people, for a people without a land. Now, where did they get this from?
Which is something that Selena Robinson contributed to.
Logic, which they practice in Kenya.
Right, this incredibly racist trope. She totally contributed to that, and she's still, the fact that she faced consequences for her deeply fucked up and racist words that she used, and she's still framing herself like she's some kind of victim, which is unbelievable. Yeah, we're talking about like the Samson option and like Israel's sort of last resort option with nukes and everything like that, and that's how I feel about America as well. We've talked often about the decline of the empire and how dangerous they are, and when they're in decline, not only is Israel dangerous, the more that their project is threatened. If they use this last resort option to nuke everyone on the way out, I feel the same. There's a similar possibility with the United States of America as they continue to feel their grip on global hegemony slipping.
They practiced in South Africa. Okay, the natives are not humans, therefore we can shoot them. Okay, remember in Australia, the natives acquired civic rights in 1967. So there's a long tradition of white settler supremacism. And Zionism simply copied that. And with the help of the British, the Balfour Declaration initially, and then of course the United States, they created a state which is the equivalent of white supremacism. And it's saying it's a land without the people, and we will take your land, Nakba. So the moment you say that these are not people, that's the beginning of genocide. Terra nullius is the commencement of genocide. And people who actually commit genocide know that they're doing it. It's not an accident, like the bombs that killed the humanitarian workers now in Gaza. They were intentional. And
that was intentional as well.
Anybody who kills people and throws them off their land feels insecure, because immediately he thinks, and it's usually he, if I have done this to them, their descendants will want to do it to me. So when they talk about Israeli security, they're talking about their insecurity from the fact that they understand that they have committed war crimes and they've committed ethnic cleansing. So it is impossible to have Israeli state security, Israel as a Jewish state, for it to be secure without completing the genocide of the Palestinians. So anybody who talks about the need to preserve the Israeli security talks about completing the genocide of Palestinians. Let's be clear about that. And I wish they were clear about that, because, I recognize a villain who is honest.
In Israel, to their credit, are pretty honest about this.
Appreciate the honesty.
We just don't want to listen to it.
I want to ask you about the European.
They're not really shy about talking about this stuff.
Has the European left intelligentsia taken a good position, a bad position? I mean, I know that with Russia, NATO, Ukraine.
I'm sorry. The European left intelligentsia. Yeah, please, let's hear more from these folks. They're doing such a great job so far, so we'd really love to hear from some of these fine folks.
It hasn't been the greatest. Has that been the same with Gaza? And I'm sure it's different across countries, so I don't want to make a blanket statement about the entire European left. But what has been your perception of the position people have been taking on Gaza?
As an indication of my view on this, let me tell you that in a few weeks, short weeks, at the beginning of June, we have the European Parliament election, and I will be a candidate amongst other members of my movement across Europe. I'm telling you now that if I get elected, I will refuse to belong to the European left grouping in Brussels. They have disgraced themselves. My comrades, former comrades in Berlin, Die Linke, the local left party, they have a long tradition, and I've been friends with them and comrades for as long as I remember. There is the Rosa Luxemburg Center in the center of former East Berlin, which is a great foundation. They've done remarkable work over the decades. Immediately after the 7th of October, they banned the Palestinian author from addressing an audience on the basis that she's Palestinian, and this is not a good time to have a Palestinian in the Rosa. I mean, poor Rosa Luxemburg. She must be spinning at 5,000 revs in her grave that they should be doing this. And generally, you mentioned that before. First, they condemn Hamas. Then they talk about the importance of providing Israeli security. And then they say, but at the same time, Palestinians matter as well. Which is,
incoherent.
Give me Donald Trump anytime.
Not serious.
Give me a fascist. Seriously, I want to see the enemy who stares at me and says, you shouldn't have the right to exist. I'm going to wipe you out. I can handle that. I cannot handle comrades who are out of spinelessness, because they're not bad people. They're just too scared that, Der Spiegel or Le Monde or, Süddeutsche Zeitung is going to write about them what they write about me. That I am a Jew-hating crazy who's destroyed Greece and whatever, They crave the appreciation of the people who are complicit in the genocide of Palestinians. And that is worse, for me, is a worse failure, moral failure, than being a Zionist. If you want to be a Zionist, be a Zionist. Then we can have an interesting conversation and a clash. But don't pretend to be on the side of the good and be a humanist lefty when you're doing that. But then, allow me to express my very great disappointment over my own kind, the left.
Please.
Because there is the other side as well. There are leftists who tragically veer towards anti-Semitism, to say, oh, what do you expect from the Jews? The moment I hear that, my hair stands on end, because that is racist, that's anti-Semite, that's Nazi. There's no such thing as the Jews. Any sentence beginning with "the Jews are like that" is fascist. It's like saying the Palestinians are.
I haven't
so much difference of opinion.
I don't doubt that kind of stuff is out there. I've seen like certain posts that have tried to tie like actions of Israel with like, oh, or the Holocaust is being lied about or whatever, or certain things like that. There were those like Stop Anti-Semitism gold check accounts, doing like Holocaust denial and stuff. I haven't really seen a lot of this though, like from the left, or really any at all. Like, yeah, unless you want to talk about people like Jackson Hinkle. And there's a whole separate conversation to be had about those guys. But like in protests, like the vast number of people that have been protesting and engaging in direct action, there's been hundreds of thousands of people globally protesting. I haven't seen one sign. There's been all kinds of slogans and things that they've claimed are anti-Semitism. I haven't seen out in the wild at any of these protests that I've been to or that I've looked at online any examples of anti-Semitism. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. And like I said, I think there's almost kind of what I think is like a psyop to co-opt the pro-Palestine movement by these like right-wing people, basically. Crypto-fascists. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I have not seen one iota of that out in the streets or at any of these protests or any of the sit-ins or events that I've been to or anywhere else. Not one. There was like one 10-second clip of an unsavory chant between like 6 people in Australia. Moist outlets, I saw that too, and that was one people pointed that out to me when I was did a tweet about this, about how like the whole anti-Semitism crisis and how it was bullshit. I had people like showing me that as an example. I even think that got debunked though. That Australia thing, because I had a tweet to that effect that was like this idea that there's been any like anti-Semitic chants or anything like that, any of these protests, it just hasn't happened, or on college campuses. And like, I'm not saying that it's an possibility that could have happened for real, but like, I believe even that Australia incident got debunked. I've seen a couple weirdos online, none in person, and you have no idea who someone really is on Twitter. That's exactly right. That's what I mean. I'm not saying I haven't seen stuff. Not at all. At all. At any of these protests or any of the events that I've been to or that I've seen footage of or images of. None. So take that for what it is,
Palestinians. You can say the Palestinians have been victims of genocide, but you can't say that the Palestinians think this way. Because I have 5 Palestinian friends; they have 20 different opinions amongst themselves. So, and also on the front of Ukraine, because I personally think that Vladimir Putin is a very vile character. I mean, I was with Jeremy Corbyn, my comrade in England. We demonstrated in 2001, when Vladimir Putin was the
West guy
of the West in Moscow, and they supported him to the hilt. We were demonstrating over the murder of 250,000 Chechens in Grozny, right? So, no love lost for Vladimir Putin. I have friends who are in prison in Russia for resisting Putin. So Putin is a criminal. I have no doubt about that. But at the same time, NATO have created him. He is a creation of the United States of America. They crushed the Russian people after 1991. They reduced life expectancy amongst men from 78 to 54 years of age. There's never been such a reduction in life expectancy in any country, even at war. And that was a policy of the United States to completely squeeze, destroy financially the people of Russia, and then to keep breaking their promises to Gorbachev, to Yeltsin, and so on, keep pushing NATO towards Moscow, until the combination of the humiliation of the Russian people and the NATO expansion created Putin. This is how, if you humiliate the people and you squeeze them, that's how Hitler was born. It was the result of the humiliation of the German people by the Allies after the First World War, and they're squeezing. So this is what they've done. So I would have liked the left.
Yeah, this is the take on Putin. We talked about this with Vijay Prashad as well.
And this war in Ukraine will have no winners. I
think on this show, Vijay Prashad referred to Putin as a creature of that humiliation. I apologize, Yanis. I was not familiar with your game. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if you're going to do the kind of I condemn this, I condemn Putin or whatever, like he's doing it in a way that has an actual historical material basis. But that's right. That's what we've been talking about. It's not about saying Putin is a great guy, but it's like, why is Putin in power in the first place? People were pointing to this Russian election. There was no one really challenging Putin. Is it really surprising why Putin has like an actual mandate and a popularity in Russia? It really shouldn't be surprising if you understand any of this history and the role that he played. And he was the West guy originally, and as I've talked about numerous times now, tried to be a part of the big club, wanted to be part of NATO. And even after overseeing the destruction of Russia and the total humiliation of the Russian people, was kind of denied. And then that pushed him into the position that he's in now, where he's this like anti-Western figure, you know? That's the West has contributed to that more than anything. And it doesn't excuse anything horrible that's happened in Ukraine to just correctly point out that the West also played a role in provoking that as well, which is another thing we've been talking about endlessly on this show. Through the expansion of NATO and through interfering in Ukraine, fucking around in Ukraine, which they said many, many times, stop doing this, stop doing what you're doing in Ukraine. It's a red line. This is a red line for us. They said this repeatedly, over and over and over again, and we didn't do it. We didn't stop. Lo and behold, it led to a war in Ukraine. You know, it's not thinking that Putin is a great guy to just acknowledge this basic fact.
Of dead people and lots of starving people in Africa and Asia because of the indirect effect of this war on fertilizer prices, on wheat prices, on corn prices, and all that. And the left, what they do? The left has, in Europe, been divided. 90% of it is NATO is a liberation movement, which is absurd.
Yeah, the crossing red lines was intentional.
And the other 10% are pro-Putin. And some of us are saying neither. Why do I have to take sides between two criminal organizations? Yeah, we've been squeezed into a tiny minority of leftists.
Yeah, I know it's really unfortunate that that's the parameters of the debate, I guess I would put it. I wanted to ask you in particular.
There's not even a debate.
Oh no, not even a debate. Not even a debate. That's just the parameters of what exists. It sounds actually worse than the U.S. In the U.S., I think there's a bit more, maybe not in the mainstream media, but in general speaking, on the left, there's much more nuance around the issue of NATO. But I think we're also separated from all of that by geography. So Russia can't be portrayed as the same kind of, monstrous threat the way it is in the European context. But I wanted to ask you specifically about Germany, because Germany seems like its own monster.
NATO is such a weird thing to build a fandom around.
I want to show a clip
that I'm NATO sure you've seen, but just the like proudly neoliberal NATO stands. There's some of the most saddest people. Like the same thing, like what Yanis is saying. Just give me a fascist. Just be a fascist. I would like to just be honest. Let's get our enemies all out in the open here. People that are openly like standing NATO and standing neoliberalism is just like, there's no more sad and pathetic excuse for a ideology, you know? Just awful. Just drop the facade, exactly.
Remind you and the audience, I'm sure you saw this, Yannis, this is a German journalist asking a question to Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories, who recently wrote a report laying out the case that Israel is in fact carrying out a genocide in Gaza. And I want to show his question.
And you're quoting the president of Israel, the prime minister, the defense minister, and some top militaries. But these are only quotes given in speeches or in other circumstances. I would like to ask you, do you have a written document by the government which...
If you're going to be a fanboy for an expansionist military alliance, at least stop pretending you have any moral principles guiding that decision. Yeah, come on. It's like they're still holding this idea that we're like the good guys, the world police. Give me a break.
Militaries. But these are only quotes given in speeches or in other circumstances. I would like to ask you, do you have a written document by the government which with a clear intent to commit genocide?
Do you think that in Rwanda and in Bosnia and Herzegovina, any government officials wrote a document saying, I want to commit genocide? Have you seen anything like that? I'll answer this for you. No, it doesn't work like that. There is those...
Okay, so I'm going to stop it there, but I do encourage people to go see the rest of that video. But I thought that was important to play just to kind of segue into Germany, because what's wrong with that guy? Why are Germans like this? What's going on in Germany? I don't think even Hitler, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't even think Hitler ever, maybe he did. Did he write down in a document, I am committing genocide against the Jews and then all of these other groups? Can you please lay out for our audience, from your understanding, what is wrong with Germany? Why are they like this when it comes to Israel?
Because they're sick, genocide-loving, murderous nation.
PhDs in psychology are going to be written about this in the next 100 years. The academic departments in universities specializing in psychology are going to have their work cut out for them. So allow me my own non-psychologist psychological theory. What happened in Germany is that there's been a combination of a justifiable collective guilt over the Holocaust. If I were German, I feel that guilt as a Greek, because it's wrong to put it all on the Germans. Mm-hmm. Because let's not forget that we had Greek Nazis, we had Croat Nazis, we had Serb-Nazis. Sometimes, the Greek and the Croat Nazis were nastier to the Jews than the German Nazis were.
Or the Ukrainians.
German Nazis.
Or the Ukrainian Nazis.
At the cruelty towards Jews by the Croat Nazis. So it's not just Germans, right? But the Germans, understandably and justifiably, have a deep-seated sense of guilt over the Holocaust. At the same time, I don't believe that Germany ever properly denazified. They claim they have.
We've been saying this.
They have banned Nazi symbols. They have banned any party that,
it's a wink, wink. We can't have the symbol anymore.
National team banned the.
Now we just have the NATO flag
on the back of the vests, because the fours look like very much like S's. So 4 looks like SS. So they've done all that, but they never had a proper conversation about, how was it that such a civilized, cultured, well-educated population managed to
long history of this
to Nazism and to commit
Cupcake
those
124 hello let
monstrous
FL1 free.
Stout Lover, thanks for the 10 months. I appreciate it. Thank you. This whole idea, how could civilized country commit this kind of barbarity? I mean, this is like the history of colonialism, the history of the British Empire, and colonialism on the part of the Portuguese and the Spanish and the Dutch and the Belgians and the French. This civilized Europeans have been doing genocide against groups of undesirables that they dehumanize and exploit for. Actually, it's a long-standing tradition, not just in Germany, but throughout Europe.
Times in the 1940s, before that, the 1930s and 40s. They never had this conversation properly. The result of the collective guilt, the formal disavowal of everything that they had done in the 1930s and 40s, with the fact that they never had a proper conversation about what led to Nazism and what was Nazism really. It wasn't just some.
And also these Nazis being put back in charge in education and the state and the law, lawyers, judges. These actual, not just like we didn't reckon with why it happened, but the actual Nazis got put back into prominent positions in society.
Yeah, it wasn't some weed that they smoked and then they all went crazy for 10 years and then they recovered. There were other things happening for a very long time there. So this combination, the incomplete denazification, the incomplete discussion, and the collective guilt has led the vast majority of Germans to swap their racist nationalism for ultra-Zionism. So the Germans today are they are anti-nationalist. They are more pro-European than the French, than the Italians, because they want to lose themselves in Europe. They want to forget that they're German and lose themselves.
Giannis has been dealing with the Germans for a while. Like I said, it was Merkel herself who helped Germany fucking completely fuck Greece.
The nationalism that they are giving away, and that's Zionism. So in ultra-Zionism as well. So when Angela Merkel got up and said the raison d'être, the rationale of Germany is the support and the security of the state of Israel, I think that's what she was doing. She said that, well, we cannot talk about German nationalism, not even patriotism. Progressives in Germany don't want to talk about patriotism because that reminds them of Hitler. But it's easy to replace one nationalism for another. So in the same way, I love a very stupid, but I think quite comical allegory. When Thatcher privatized British electricity, she sold it to a French nationalized company. So their own nation privatized British electricity. Similarly, in the case of Germany, they are taking somebody else's white supremacist ideology, Zionism, and they replace it for their own. At least that's my theory. By the way,
that's a good one.
Let me use your kindness to plug for Mera 25. Mera 25 is our political party here in Greece, but it is also a political party in Germany. We are the only party that has a Greek party and a German party and an Italian party. And we're going to run in the election in June under Mera 25 on a platform of turning around the German polity from Zionism towards supporting Palestinian rights and towards supporting a disentanglement of Germany from NATO.
Wow. I actually think there's a huge base that would really, really support that across Europe. They just don't have any representation anywhere. So I really look forward to seeing that. And I was going to ask you, since you brought it up, that's a huge platform. I mean, it's like a huge part of the party's platform, but what else does it stand for?
Firstly, we do believe that re-energizing the anti-war movement is essential, not just against war, but also against the militarization of our economies. Very recently, the President of the European Union Council suggested that Europe must try to re-industrialize through developing its own military-industrial complex, which is just remarkable. The second thing is, for the purposes of spreading dignity across Europe, we believe that the European Central Bank should fund a basic income for all Europeans. not through taxation, but directly through the European Central Bank. This sounds a bit like a technical issue, but let me put it this way. In the last 8 years, the European Central Bank has printed 11 trillion euros on behalf of the financiers. What we're saying is that they should print 5 trillion euros in order to support the people who deserve to live in some dignity in the richest continent in the world. And the third, that the costs of the climate crisis, of the climate emergency, of the climate catastrophe must not be borne by the poor. These are the 3 planks with which we're running across Europe.
Well, that sounds wonderful, and I look forward to seeing the results of that. And then since we're on the topic of your new political party, what do you think? I mean, are those points lacking in your former party you were involved in Greece, Syriza, which I believe
I'm going to keep saying it.
You can correct
me if I'm wrong. We need a new party in this country.
The leader of this party is a banker connected.
Someone's going to have to step up.
Is that correct?
Can I enhance your apoplexy by
please?
That not only he, I mean, I don't mind people being connected to the US. It could be Noam Chomsky, right? I mean, if Noam Chomsky was living, I'd be very happy.
Right.
Now, the problem is that this particular gentleman and his CV has 2 words that should make, well, I don't have any head to stand on end, but you do. Goldman Sachs. He's an alumnus of Goldman Sachs. Need I add more? No, but
I mean, a hotbed of leftist radicalization.
But you see, what this shows is this: the party that I joined in 2015, with which I ran, I was elected member of parliament, and then I became finance minister of that first government for 6 months or so. That party was a wonderful party. I mean, if you look at the platform, everything I said to you before was part of that platform and more. It was connected to the movements. It was a party that grew up from the grassroots. Initially, we were at 4%, and we were shot up to 40% as a result of the inane handling of the terrible Greek and European financial crisis by the financiers and by the oligarchs. And we succeeded. It was one of those few, very rare occasions when a grassroots party gets elected. And gets elected against the grain of the interests of the oligarchs, of the bankers, of NATO, of. We even had a platform for getting out of NATO, right? So if you read the text, and they were part and parcel of the DNA of the people who supported us. The people who supported us were brilliant and pro-Palestinian and so on and so forth. But that is a very good case study in how the rot starts from the head and goes towards the bottom to the tail. Because once the Prime Minister, my dear friend and comrade at the time, essentially surrendered during that clash we had with the representatives, the troikas we call them, the representatives of the worst of the financiers around the world, and, you know, the Berlin government and so on. He surrendered. And he surrendered right at the moment when, remember, it was a party that started 4%, we had gone up to 36, 40%. And then 6 months later, during this clash with the Troika, we had a referendum and we won 62%. So the people of Greece came to the party. They embraced us. They supported us heroically.
You can just start a new party.
Think about it. They had shut down their ATMs. Our ATMs had been shut down by the bars of Frankfurt.
You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Diego, thanks for the gifted sub. Very, very much appreciate all the support, Diego. Thank you.
Blackmail the Greek people not to support us, and they support us with 62%. On that night of the referendum, it was 5th of July 2015. I would go to my grave with that date etched in my heart. He surrendered, and he and I spent 3 hours in his office after midnight trying to convince him to dissuade him. I failed. Then I resigned. And then what happens is this. This is a great lesson for me. The moment you surrender on the big things, then you surrender on the small things or the smaller things. Very soon after that, the electricity system grid was split up and given away to oligarchs. Within 6 months, he was hugging Netanyahu and signing deals for oil drilling and gas drilling and pipelines connecting Israel to Cyprus to Greece. Thankfully, none of that happened, but the deal was there. And now Greece is a great supporter of the apartheid state, which you can't blame it on the current government, which is a very right-wing government, but it was our government, the one that I just resigned from, that initiated it. And then from that moment onwards, everything breaks down. And, as I said, the rot sets in. And that's why some of us had to create another party.
Yeah, it's a horrible cycle that just continues. And then I want to bring into it some ideas from your latest book on techno-feudalism, The End of Capitalism. And that title, it kind of gives the impression, at least to socialists like me, that, yay, it's the end of capitalism. But don't get excited, guys, because actually what you're arguing is that it's morphed into something even worse, where we're all in service to these, feudal tech lords. So can you explain to our audience what you mean by techno-feudalism? And it's not because I want to make everything about Gaza. It's just, I think that this actually plays into it a bit. I'm just curious if, after explaining the idea behind techno-feudalism, if you could bring it back to Gaza in the sense that, these tech overlords are in fact in charge of the social media mechanisms that we all are getting our information from right now. I mean, we were watching a live stream genocide happen on their platforms, where they have the capability of really curating and even censoring content on Israel's behalf.
Yes. Well, to begin with, I'll take as my cue what you said, that techno-feudalism is not something to celebrate, it's something worse than
to talk you through all this.
What's shaken, Bobby Roos?
Progressive Canuck, thanks for the 32 months, Tier 1. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
There is much worse than capitalism. That's not entirely my idea.
Neo-feudalism arguably has been here since the fall of the Soviet Union. Yeah, I mean, maybe are we just describing neoliberalism, like predating the fall of the Soviet Union, like since the early 80s? Like, we're still just living in the tail end of all these economic decisions in the early 80s. I guess the one thing that's different is you have this tech sector that's emerged over the last 10 or 15 years that now plays a large role in our culture, our society. But overall, we're still talking about the same economic system. Just the same shot with computers, isn't it? That's right.
I mentioned Rosa Luxemburg before, but I will do it again. Was it not Rosa who said from her prison cell, that the world is facing a dilemma: socialism or barbarism, not capitalism? If we don't succeed in creating socialism out of capitalism, we're going to end up with barbarism. Well, that's where we are.
If you enjoyed this episode,
that was really great. That was really great. And I think, like we were saying, I think he's whatever willingness he had to kind of try to walk a certain line a couple months ago, it seems like he's going pretty hard, I like Yanis Varoufakis a lot. Please do subscribe to Breakthrough News. Please, if you're not, I don't see why you wouldn't be. There's been such a valuable resource on this and a lot of other subjects important to all of us. So please do subscribe to Breakthrough News and support their content if you can.
Rob to talk you through all this.
But also, if you can, in addition to that, I got about another 15 minutes to go before I got to get out of here and pick up my kid from school. But Sean, thank you for the gifted sub. Very much appreciated. As you know, folks, the only way that I'm able to do this show that you're currently watching each and every day is through the extreme generosity of the community members. It's the only way that I'm able to do this show each and every day. This show that you love to tune into every day. It only exists because some of the incredible and very generous members of this community help me make the little number at the bottom of the screen go up. This number. So if you can, please do subscribe to this show. 25 subs away from the goal. 15 minutes to go. I know it can be done. But if you can, please subscribe or give subs or tip
You can count
or
on me.
subscribe on Patreon or whatever it is.
To talk you through all this.
Whatever it is. Thank you, Ben, for the 29 months of Tier 1 as well. Thank you, Ben. 24 subs to go. If you can, please subscribe to TRRS. You can do so also completely free of charge if you have an Amazon Prime account. You can easily convert that to a Twitch Prime sub. Totally free of charge. And every little bit helps out. Every little bit helps support the work that I do on here. I think we got some of the very best conversations, guests, interviews, analysis, anywhere. I think it's the best community out there for this show. And yeah, maybe I'm biased, but I really do believe that. And the very best tiny images as well. So if you can, please do subscribe.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Slub to rib.
Thank you, Cinnamon Challenge, as well, for the 39 months of Tier 1 and all the support over the years now. Cinnamon Challenge, thank you so much. Very, very kind of you. And now a mere 23 subs to... Sorry, 18... 23 subs to go, right?
Have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
I think, right? Something like that. Who cares? Who cares what the exact number is? Dr. Maggot, thank you for the gifted sub and all the support. Thank you, Dr. Maggot. I appreciate it. We got a hype train close as well. $22 subs. 22 subs to go. It's something like that. And we got a hype train on the horizon as well. One more sub or gifted sub could do it. Remember, if you are an unsubbed member and you're not part of the community, you can support this program. You can make a life-changing decision right now to join this community and support this community and get access to all kinds of wonderful benefits. The tiny images, the community, the friendship, the discussion, the movie nights. So much good stuff. And if you're an unsubbed member, you are missing out on it. You're missing out.
You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Dr. Maggot, thank you again for another gifted sub, although I don't think that will get this hype train going because you're the same person. But thank you, Dr. Maggot. The tiny images are a hoot with the chat. Everyone in chat, not just one weird middle-aged bozo. We're all weird middle-aged bozos on here. That's the beauty of this community. That's the beauty of this community. We're all middle-aged weirdos. I mean, some of us are not middle-aged, but... you know. A lot of us seem to be. I know I sure am.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Anon, thank you for a gifted sub as well. Thank you, Anon. 20 little bitty subs to go. And a hype train on the horizon. We got a possible hype train. It's been a little bit of a slow day. Like, I don't have super high expectations, but... you know, maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe I'll be surprised by some mysterious benefactor coming through and supporting this show. As you know, as I've said many times, it's not my favorite part of doing this. Trying to psychologically will the little number at the bottom of the screen to go up. I hope you understand that in order to do this show, that's something that I have to do each and every day. I hope people get that. And you're not disgusted with my, obsession with numbers and subs or whatever it is. I do have to pay rent, unfortunately, but I would wish this were not the case. I do have to pay rent. I do have to pay for groceries. I do have to pay for having a kid is actually very expensive. So unfortunately, I am forced to do this, and I hope you all understand that. We got Devin Wonka needing a gifted sub. We got a couple of unsub chatters here. The Rock could afford to come through and support this entire show for an entire year and not even notice the difference. Oh, excuse me. I'm getting the 3 p.m. sleepies as well. We got Devin Wonka unsubbed. We got Leo unsubbed. We got Hella Gay Jamie unsubbed. And we got Hero Toxico unsubbed. I'm seeing 4 unsubbed community members right now. Adrenaline in my soul. Get Rob out of this 20 sub hole. Thank you, Genki. I should get a Rob Vader. If I started
count on me, you're gonna have good old Rob.
If I started appearing every day, coming up on the Rob Vader, the Rob Vader. Dan, thank you for the gifted sub to Devin Wonka. Oh, 20 subs. If only I had 20 subs to service my hole right now. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Don't clip that. We don't need to clip it. I'm just trying to entertain people on twitch.tv, that's all. I'm just trying to entertain some fine folks here on twitch.tv. I'd give people a little smile. Give people a little smile and a chuckle. People around the world who are isolated and alienated. They're overtired, they're overworked, they're underpaid. And they need a little ray of sunshine in their lives, and that's all I'm trying to give to them. Okay? That's all. Or not paid at all in some cases. Ugh. A voice for the voiceless. That's it. That's me. Okay, I'll knock it off. I'll knock it off, Lode, now that you showed up here. Oh, my mom's here, and she said I couldn't say those kind of things anymore. I'm going to my room. I'm going to my room, Mom. Okay, stop it, Lode. That's kind of working for me. Anyway, let's move on. We got 19 subs to go. We got 19 subs to go. Should be no problem. Should be no problem. 7 minutes. 19 subs to go. I know we can get there. We still got some unsubbed viewers and community members. We got Leo. We got a couple of others. We got Leo and a couple of others unsubbed. Should be no problem, I think. I mean, surely we could get past 20. I mean, obviously we can get past 20. I mean, that's not my concern. I think we can get to the goal but obviously, of course, we can get past 20. I'm like, of course we can. Ridiculous.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Anon, thank you very much for the gifted sub. Thanks, Anon. Very, very kind of you. Maybe the hour of wrestling talk on the show, maybe that wasn't the thing to bring in the viewers and subs. Maybe talking about the sport of professional wrestling for the first hour of this program. Perhaps that was not the best business move on my part. Needed more Gina. I think so too. Gina got the chat going yesterday. I think we need like a daily Gina check-in. Oh, I'm getting very sleepy. I might have to take a little nap. I'm gonna go pick up my kid from school, drop him off, and I might take a little nap after. I kind of want to go see that movie later, but I'm not so sure. And by the way, not only am I not, like, I do want to see this movie, but we need all hands on deck in Helldivers tonight. I don't know if people are aware, we thought the automaton menace had been repelled and destroyed permanently. We've had a massive invasion fleet. I don't know if people are aware of this. Massive invasion fleet pushing into our territory. The automatons are back in a sizable force. This is serious shit. We're gonna have to log on tonight because we've lost multiple planets. Multiple planets have been lost now. That's not true, though, Dana. I like playing with you, and in fact, when I played with my son the other night, when we played together, he really liked that. He wants to do it again. I just never see that whenever I log in late at night often, and I don't often see you. You're not mean. Sometimes you're a little mean, but not in that case. Anyway, this is the direct order that just came in. This is serious shit. Oh, fuck. It's so funny because they posted this whole mission accomplished poster, and then now that the automatons are back, they posted the mission accomplished poster with just a sticker over it. It's so great. It's really funny. Anyway, so we need all hands on deck, and I just logged on this morning just to check out what was going on because I wanted to see the map, and saw that this invasion was happening, and I was like, "Fuck, I gotta get in there." I had that reaction, we're under attack. I gotta log on here, and the new defense missions that they've added now in these new automaton sectors are insane. They're absolutely insane. These defense missions, you've got to have this like fortified like little base that's being totally overrun, and you have these like series of like doors that get like overrun, and you can close them and like fall back deeper into this complex. It is absolutely crazy. Anyway, we need all hands on deck tonight. We need all hands on deck. We need to fight back against this unprovoked attack. This unprovoked attack by the automatons. Very unfortunate. The automatons are being very unfair. Okay, folks, I gotta go. I gotta get going. Goodbye. I'll just wait for those other 3 subs to come in to push us above 20. I know that those are on the way, so I'm confident those are going to come in. Thanks for supporting this program today, everybody, and tuning in and hanging out. I do appreciate it a lot. As soon as these next 3 subs are going to come in, I'm going to make sure to thank, whoever is responsible for those. Obviously, those are going to come in any moment now. As we know, it's not something I'm concerned about. It's not something I'm at all concerned about.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you very much, Barbara.
You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Yeah, Diego, it's time for you to get a new PC. I think it's time. Barbara, thanks so much for the gifted sub. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Anon, as well, for the gifted sub. Thank you, Anon. And thank you, Dr. Maggot, as well, for supporting the program today and every day. Very much appreciated. Thank you. Okay. I mean, maybe the next 15 subs are going to come in the next couple of moments. Like, maybe that's going to happen. I would like to think that they will. I'm going to go ahead and raid Avery Edison here, who I think is relatively new to streaming. Followed Avery for a long time on Twitter. Very funny person. Just going to go ahead and raid her. Thanks for tuning into this program today, folks. As always, I appreciate it a whole lot. Obviously, these next 15 subs will be coming in the next couple moments, which I'll say thank you in advance for those. I know any second someone's going to come through with those, so, that's another thing that I'm very thankful for. I thank you in advance for that. If you aren't on tomorrow, bad things will happen. I will be here tomorrow, okay? I will be here tomorrow. I will be here Thursday. I will be here Friday. And I'm looking forward to hanging out with each and every one of you. And thanks so much for these 15 subs. I know they're about to come in the next 8 seconds. And I appreciate that, whoever it was. Hey, wait a second. What the...